Good afternoon, good evening. This is Dr. Scott Worden, the TOS guy, and we are live streaming from beautiful downtown Sunnyvale, California. It's turned to summer here, and not only am I enjoying it, but my kids are getting out of school, so they're enjoying it too. I can barely remember what it's like that last day of school. You have the whole summer in front of you. Today we have Jake Marcum back, one of our most popular guests. Jake is the incredible swimmer, the athlete who suffered from venous TOS, and if you haven't watched his previous videos, I strongly recommend them, as well as Jake's own site, which we're going to give you a link to shortly. Jake, it's great to see you.
It's great to see you, Dr. Warden. Thank you for having me on.
You know, you're always positive, and it's really a pleasure for us because TOS patients suffer through a lot of emotional ups and downs. So, why don't you tell us, since the last time we saw you, you had some competition, and give us an idea what's been happening with you.
Yeah, trying to think of the last time that we spoke. Was it last summer? Um, yeah, so I swam my last year of eligibility at the University of Alabama. We finished that up in March. And I'm all done now. I in February I got ninth at the SEC championships in the 200 back. I won a best time, which was something that was very rewarding. And then in March, I went to NCAA's for the third time, and I competed. Had my last ever swim, and now I can say that my athlete life is over with, but that I made it through 6 years of having TOS as an athlete and was able to be successful with it. Roll with the punches. It was an up and down journey. Um, but I made it. And so now I couldn't be happier to move on with the next steps of my life, and not have to worry about it every time that I stepped in the water, on if today was going to be a bad day or if it was going to be a great day. Don't have to deal with those worries now. Now it's just going through everyday life and learning to adjust to that.
When was the last time you had any symptoms or treatment at all for TOS?
The last time that I had any symptoms was probably middle of March, I think. It was in training still. Nothing out of the ordinary for what I've been accustomed to over the past couple of years, but I think that was the last time. And ever since I stopped swimming, I haven't had any issues. I have no flare ups, no tightness, um, nothing really. I mean, I feel great now. Definitely, definitely competing. Exacerbated it. That's where my issues came from is um, when I competed, but that's just something that I had to deal with as long as I wanted to keep performing at a high level, and so it didn't really have to do. I didn't really have to worry about it anymore.
Do you feel that when you were pushing yourself and competing so hard, did your coaches, number one, understand what was going on, and what adjustments did they make, if so?
Yeah, my coaches were very good at understanding. Um, they I had to educate them a little bit, because a lot of them had no idea what TOS was. I actually have one coach or somebody who he was just brought on to our staff last year, uh, who he swam also and he had TOS, but he had to stop from it.
Oh,
Um, but I definitely had to be an advocate for myself. I was never afraid to say, "Hey guys, this is what's going on with me." I spoke more than my trainers did about it, just because of my experience with it, the stuff I've learned about it throughout the past couple of years. I felt like I could explain it just as well, if not better than they could, um, just because I have like a very intimate relationship with what's been going on, and so educating my coaches was a bit of a learning curve sometimes, but um, I think that because I was very clear on the front end on things that I needed, um, things that have worked for me, things that haven't worked for me, the coaches kind of gave me slack, I guess, instead of like, I'm referring to slack as like they loosened the rope, I guess, and gave me more freedom with what I wanted to do. Um, They listened to me when I said something was wrong, and they adjusted. They kind of let me control how I dealt with things if an issue was happening. Um, and so that was really great. It allowed me to do things that have helped me, and it allowed me to not do things that have not helped me. For example, um, our schedule changed at the beginning of last year, and on Saturdays for practice, normally in the past, it had only been a 2-hour swim session, and that's fine. It's usually our hardest practice of the week. And this year it changed. It became a 3-hour session with an hour-long lift before
Mm.
the swim. And I kinda went to my coaches and I said, "Hey, guys, that's not gonna work for me because if I like, I'm completely fine doing a 2-hour swim. I have no issues with that, but if I'm to do an hour-long lift right before that, where I'm putting muscular strain instead of more cardiovascular strain, those 2 events combined together was a recipe for disaster for me. And I did it once at the beginning of the year, and a disaster happened. I had a flare up, and I went to them. I was like, "Hey guys, we gotta change the schedule for me at least." And they were very open to that. They were very understanding. So I went ahead and started lifting Friday. I started doing that third lift Friday after a 2-hour swim. It was a lot easier for me because the swim was the most important part for me. If I missed time in the water,
Mm.
it wasn't going to be good for me. So I was willing to compromise my lift to a certain extent compared to my swim. And actually, when I went to lifting after the swim on Fridays, it opened up everything. I had no issues in that lift after the swim in the morning. Um, and my Saturday practices were great because I typically didn't have an issue at all. So my coaches were very understanding. My trainers were very understanding. If I had an issue, I walked in there. I said, "Hey guys, I need this, this, and this," and they completely understood. And that was a little bit of me being able to advocate for myself and make sure that I they knew what I needed because I wasn't going to let me not speaking up because I've seen so many people just in injuries in general not speak up about it and become frustrated, and I knew that TOS was severe enough that I couldn't let that happen, and I was not gonna let that happen to myself.
So they listened to Dr. Jake. They knew you knew what you were talking about when it came to TOS.
Yes, they did, and it was, um
And to remind our listeners who may not have seen your previous videos, you'd presented with 2 episodes of arm swelling and had a big blood clot. That was how you started a few years ago, right?
yeah, so it was a 5-day process, from first symptom to diagnosis, um, and basically my arm was swollen up twice the size of my left arm. It was a dark bluish purple color. I couldn't lift it above here, and I went into the ER and I had, a thrombectomy done the next morning.
Yeah. With your dad by your side, who happens to be a cardiologist.
Yes, I was very fortunate, and he did a wonderful job of being able to balance being a dad and being a doctor at the same time, and that's
Very
something that I needed because I needed him more as a dad than a doctor in those instances, and I know it's hard, for physicians to be able to separate those, but he was amazing at doing that and being able to listen to what I needed and be able to say the things I needed, being educated about it, but also being able to deliver it to me as a father. And so I'm forever thankful for that. He's an awesome dad, an awesome cardiologist. Um, and I couldn't have done it if I didn't have him by my side.
So you had a support group, your mom and dad, and you had told us in previous visits about the challenges. You had some ups and downs emotionally that were some pretty wild swings, right?
Yeah, definitely. My parents were always positive about it. And I never really let them in and opened up to them about what was going on, mentally, because the mental side of it, I think, is the hardest part of it all. Um, Physically, I knew I was capable to push through. um, I knew that if there's like a obstacle set in front of me that physically I could push through it. I knew that I could when after my first rib removal that the doctor said after like a week you'll be able to crawl your arm up the wall.
Hmm.
I was able to do that 2 days after my surgery. I walked into his office and I just did this a week after, and he was shocked. So I
Yep.
knew physically that I could overcome anything. The hardest part for me was waking up every morning. And, I never told my parents that. I never let them in that I was struggling mentally because it's hard. You feel alone. Um, I would wake up in the morning and I'd throw my phone across the room because I was so mad that the alarm was going off because I was in so much pain. I was terrified to go to sleep because I
Hmm.
thought that I was gonna throw a clot and die in my sleep, and I didn't want my parents to walk into my room the next morning and me not be alive. Um, so mentally, it was hard walking into the training room every day. I mean, I couldn't have done it without my parents, but I could not have done it without Coach TJ Bass, my athletic trainer. He's now the head athletic trainer at BYU,
Hmm.
and I couldn't have done it without him. I talk to him once a year on the date that he sent me to the ER, but he always could tell when I walked into the training room if it was a good day or a bad day, and it didn't matter what kind of face I had up here, if I was hiding it or not, he could tell. And he could tell physically if it was a bad day, not just mentally, and was able to always encourage me, always keep me grounded in what I was doing, remind me of what our goal was, and most importantly, he reminded me that I wasn't alone. Um, so that was great. I mean, my parents were incredible in encouraging me, pushing me because um, they knew I'd never be satisfied if I didn't at least get a chance to swim again. And I think that was um, something that I didn't quite realize. I know when um, Dr. Fugit came to me with the different surgical options for the rib removal, I immediately asked for the riskier procedure because it allowed me a quicker recovery so I could get back in the water. So instead of going in through the pec muscle and cutting that, he went in underneath my armpit and had to navigate the brachial plexus. It's a lot riskier. And I was like, I want to do that because I want to swim again. And sometimes I would lose sight of that um, just because I was in my own head of, I'm in pain. This sucks. I don't want to keep going anymore. And they were always there to pick me back up, even if I didn't share that with them.
Now, your story is in a great video. Do you want to share your website?
Yeah. So I like to look at things on the more positive side. So I think that God has blessed me with this, with having TOS so that I can help other people out there. So um, with Forward Motion Films, I created a documentary, and it's on my website, helpforthoracikoutlet.org. So if you guys have time, go check that out. We have
Helpforthoracikoutlet.org.
Yes, helpforthoracikoutlet.org. We've got videos on there. I've interviewed other patients. Still working on expanding that. It's kind of something I do on the side now, but it's something I'm working on projects throughout the year on that because while I want to be a dentist and that's what I'm going to school for now, my I still want to be able to help people who have TOS because it's something so near and dear to me, and it's not something that I want to forget about.
And by the way, congratulations for getting into dental school.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Have you decided where you're going?
Yes, I start July 8th at University of Tennessee Health Science Center.
Great. That's really cool.
Thank you. I'm pretty excited. I actually move in 2 weeks,
Oh,
so getting closer.
so you're going to be a Vols fan?
Oh no, Oh, no. No, no, no. It's in Memphis, Tennessee, it's not in Knoxville, so
Okay.
I don't affiliate with the Vols at all. I'm still Roll Tide till I die.
Right. So let me ask you, you do a lot of work with TOS patients. What would you say are some common threads that you find when you talk to people and consider it in light of your experience?
So most of my experience with talking to patients who have TOS, the majority have been talking with parents. Um, Most of the people who I've talked to are younger children who are having this in high school or in middle school,
Mm,
and their parents, a lot of them are swimmers as well, and their parents don't really know what to do. And they've looked and they've found my website, they've seen my story and seen that I was able to be successful with it. And a lot of times, the advice that I give is listen. I think that's the most important thing is if somebody out there that's in a support group is watching this, the most important thing is to listen because whether you hear it or not, we're crying out for help. And we may do it in our own way. Some people may be very direct. I was very direct in my appeals for help and when I was struggling. Some people may do it in different ways, but listen, because at the end of the day, the person who is going through it, they know what's actually happening. And the only way that you can help is by listening. Um, and then also just trying to be positive. Um, you'll be able to tell if they're having a rough day or not. And you have no idea how much a kid coming home from practice who has it and they're struggling, how much it can help to come home and their parents be like, "Hey, it's okay. Like, we've got you. Like, you don't have to worry. Like, we support you. We are gonna do everything we can to help you." Um, that's a lot of what I've talked with other fellow athletes who have it, and I've also talked to patients who are much older than me, and I think the largest thing that I talk about is advocating for yourself. I think that if you can advocate for yourself, you'll get yourself the correct care because a lot of the times people don't advocate for themselves and they don't get the care that they need and they spend years in pain because they didn't ask a question, they didn't speak up. Um, and so I think that those are the most important things. Those are the things that I talk to patients a lot. I share my own experiences about how when I was in pain, different things that I do. If they want to get a lot more specific, if it's an athlete, they are asking me what I do in recovery, what I do to activate before practice or before a
mhm,
race. I get it. I get in very detailed with that. I can give them everything that I do, things that have worked for me, things that don't work for me. Um, and I can talk about that. So I'm very flexible about the things I talk about with patients, but the most important thing is just being able to advocate for yourself because everybody's alone in this, but you're not alone because there are people out there who are going to help and who want to help. All you have to do is be willing to speak up for yourself. Um,
now you were lucky your dad obviously, knows a ton of medicine, and, you were lucky because you have a really good vascular surgeon there who recognized TOS. When you talk to patients, do you find, some of them don't know how to find a doctor that can do what your doctors did?
yes, sometimes I do see that. And I always recommend if there's not somebody nearby, I always recommend my own surgeon, coming to see him, Dr. Mark Fugit. Um, he works out of Memorial Hospital in Chattanooga, Tennessee, which is where I live, and, um, because I know that I would trust him with my life, and I did, and he proved me right. Um, I remember when, um the night I was diagnosed, my dad and my mom stayed up the entire night. I stayed up the entire night too, but I was in my room fighting my own battles. My parents were downstairs doing research, and they researched Vanderbilt, they researched Duke, Stanford, going up to the Northeast, going to the Mayo Clinic, going to Emory, um, and they found Dr. Fugit. And for my dad to say, "Hey, I trust this guy. We're not going to go to these big medical hubs. Like we can do this here." For me, that was all the confidence that I needed. And when he came in and said, "Hey, like, what do you want out of this?" asking me, and me telling him, "Hey, I want to swim again." And he said, "I can't promise you that, but I'm going to do my very best to get you to that point, and we're going to do this together." He gave me hope. So I think that if you do find a doctor out there who knows what's going on but can't give you hope, find another doctor. Go keep looking, because there is somebody out there, there is a physician out there who will see your story, and they will listen to you, and they will tell you what you need to hear, that they are gonna, and they'll be able to give you hope. Dr. Fugit gave me hope, and I had none. I walked in there thinking everything was over. Um, and he gave me a sliver of hope, and I held on to that. And that sliver of hope got bigger and bigger and bigger. And we worked together, and I was able to accomplish way more than I could have ever imagined. Um, so I think that if you're having a hard time finding a doctor out there, I always recommend Dr. Fugit, but I know that you also have different resources that can help people out there. So I also will refer them to talk to you guys, because after talking to you guys, I know that if I didn't find Dr. Fugit, I was going to find you guys, and
And
everything.
we might well have steered you back to him because he's local, right?
Yeah.
We welcome people reaching out to us to find the names of specialists. We agree with what you're saying, Jake. It's important to find a doc who knows what he or she is doing
Mhm,
and who's positive and optimistic.
mhm,
I recently saw a Twitter post where a person in another country posted about disputed TOS. And most of our followers know disputed neurogenic TOS, that I kind of scoff at the idea. And it was just very convenient for one doctor, but there's no science behind it. But it is a way, unfortunately, for some doctors to say, well, it's disputed, so I don't need to know anything about it. And it's
mhm,
very disheartening for patients to have a doctor say, yeah, maybe it's real, maybe it's not. That's not the case. So, yes, find a doctor who's hopeful, who's optimistic, and
mhm,
who knows TOS. And we can help with that if Jake can't help you.
mhm.
Jake, if people want to contact you, do you mind if people reach out to you?
Yeah, definitely. There's a way to reach out for. There's a way to reach out through my website, and also, um, if you find me on social media, I've had people reach out to me on Facebook, reach out to me on Instagram. Um, I think my usernames are just Jake Marcum. Maybe an underscore in there or not. You'll be able to find me, because I usually have something about Alabama and then about dental school in my bio. So you'll know it's me. And don't hesitate to reach out, even if I think
Thank you.
my account may be private or not, but I still get message requests through that. I still go through them, um, and I'm more than happy to help out anybody who reaches out to me.
And we're happy for anybody who contacts us through our website, tosmri.com, to put you in touch with Jake. He's been most generous and gracious with his time and helped lots of people. Thank you for that. It's called paying it forward. So we really appreciate that. So now you spent the summer, the recent part of the early summer here, doing some traveling, right?
Yes, I did. I finished up. So I graduated in December, but I still had to take classes in the spring semester, so I was able to compete with the NCAA eligibility requirements. So I took a couple classes, and then after the season was over, after classes were over, my friends graduated. I hopped on a plane and I headed to Europe. And I spent 2.5 weeks in uh, Germany, Poland, Chechnya or Czech Republic, Hungary, and Austria. and then I spent 10 days in Hawaii, and now I'm back in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, getting ready to move to Memphis, Tennessee. Um, I was very blessed to be able to travel. My parents wanted me to be able to enjoy life while I can, before school starts. It was a very enlightening trip learning about just the history that was going on in that area, in that region of the world, and, learning to slow down a little bit and enjoy life because that trip flew by. It's crazy to me that it's already June, but,
And Europe feels really, really old, doesn't it? It's very different
oh,
than here.
yeah. It's very different, and I like that a lot. I mean, the buildings are they're so beautiful, the streets are easy to walk, the cities are easy to walk. Like, I was walking 20,000 steps, 10 miles every day
Nice.
pretty
Nice.
much. Um, and it's so much more different than the States because we don't have that kind of history here. We don't have
Mhm.
the old buildings that are from the 1400s or even earlier than that. We don't have the old castles in the countryside. All of our
And
cities
all
are
the
so
twisty streets
big.
that go through the cities and
Yeah,
pedestrian malls. Yeah.
all of our cities are so spread out and, not easy to walk. You have to drive everywhere. So it's very different, but, um, I very much enjoyed it. It was a good time.
Good. And you're a history buff.
Yes, I am. I'm a big World War II history buff, so spending time going through that area of the world and kind of in a spotlight the World War II time period was very interesting. It was fun because my mom I was homeschooled in middle school, and my mom taught me history, so we had a good time being able to learn about that stuff, and
Nice.
we were watching documentaries as we were going throughout the trip. My dad too, and we were just learning about what was going on. I think it makes it interesting because I've had people ask me, like, I'm 23 years old now, if I get bored traveling with my parents, and I tell them no, like, I had a blast because we always were doing something together that we all were interested in. We never have any problems with that. We all love to attack a city in the same way and how we
I
break it
love
down,
that.
how we explore it. We all do it in the same way. We all like doing it that way. So we're always on the same page with everything. Typically, when we get to a city, we go and do like a city bus tour, just to see the major sites. Then we'll have dinner. We'll walk around the town and just kind of explore where we want to spend the next day or two there before we moved on to the next city. And we always were doing something that one of us was interested in.
Love it. My kids are young, and we've been to Europe several times with them, and I love showing them things like Mozart's childhood home. They know
Mhm.
who Mozart is, and when you stand there, even as an adult, you realize hundreds of years have passed since then, and it's a good reason to take a breath and say the little ups and downs don't matter so much. It's the long term, and
Oh,
I view it as a very optimistic thing. People have been here before; they've gone through it.
mhm.
Life persists and life goes on. So sit in the
100.
canoe, float along, don't rock the boat too much, and just keep pointing it forward. Right?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I was able to travel to Europe a couple times, when I was younger, and being there now, I appreciated it so much more. I was more engaged with everything we were doing, and,
That's great.
not that I would take back going when I went. Like, I very much enjoyed it too. Like, I had so much energy, so walking throughout the streets of Rome, for example,
Mm.
that was so much fun to me. Um and just like learning about the history. I mean, do you learn about everything that we've come through, that we've gone through, everything that's shaping what's currently happening now. Um, it's fun. I enjoy it a lot. I had a good time.
Great. That's great. And doing it with your parents hopefully reinforces the value of family.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it was their 34th wedding anniversary, I think,
Oh,
and they wanted me to come along. So I was very thankful for that. I didn't want to interrupt their party, but
sure.
they wanted me to come, so I came along, and it was a good time.
That's great. That's great. every year on our anniversary, we go out to dinner. It's kind of romantic dinner, but we always bring the kids.
Mhm.
Family is super important. And in your case, we talk about the support they provided, even when they were probably under a lot of stress.
Oh,
Their
definitely.
son, so that's great, great positive thing. So now you're looking forward to dental school,
Yes, sir.
and hopefully you're looking forward to it with the same positive energy you always have.
Yes, definitely. I'm very excited. A little nervous, just because it's something new. It's something, moving to a new city. I don't really know anybody there. But I'm excited because it's something that I'm passionate about, it's something that I wanna do. I think I can be very successful at it, and, yeah, I'm excited. I get a chance to learn how to help people in a way. It's a little bit different than what I'm doing now with my website and stuff, but it's something that will allow me to connect with people, use my hands the way that God made them to be used for me, and hopefully bring more smiles to the world. Because one of the biggest things for me when having TOS was walking down in the morning, walking downstairs and seeing a smile on my mom's face, seeing a smile on my dad's face. Because there's power in that. And you never know you never know that if you're walking down the street or you see somebody, if you smile at them, the kind of impact that that'll have on their lives. So hopefully that me becoming a dentist, I can bring people more confidence
Mhm.
and bringing their smile out. It'll have an impact on people's lives, like the impact that it had on me when I had TOS, or I still
And,
have
and
TOS, but when I was going through the majority of my pain.
and I'm sure your dad has shared with you those valuable moments in medicine, in healthcare, when you can make somebody's life better.
Oh, 100%. Those are the good days when he can come home and he's like, I did something good today.
Yeah,
And those are the things that made me want to get into healthcare.
that's great. Your story is a great story, and we all at this end know you're going to do very well. You're gonna
Thank
you're
you.
gonna learn so much. You're gonna be working your butt off, and then all of a sudden you'll look back and say, "Wow, I know something not many people know. This is great."
Yeah, I'm
That's
very
that's
excited.
exciting. Do you want to take a few questions from patients?
Yeah, 100%.
All right, let's see if we've got. All right, Marcus, I'll let you just read this and answer the question. I don't want to read over the words here. All right. Well, actually, this is a question more for me. I'm sorry to say. All right. So you're clinically diagnosed with TOS and you don't have Neovista in your area. Can you just do an arms up and arms down MRI? Um, no one's responding from my site. Well, Marcus will. I don't know if there's a mix up with our admin people. We try really hard to respond to everybody. Please reach out again. We'll look out for your name and we're glad to talk to you in person. What's different about our MRI is, well, let's see. Jake, we were talking about experience and doing things for a long time. And we do that. We've done thousands of these studies. We've refined the study over time. We have my eyes looking at all of them, and I've seen every single study we've done. I have connections with docs in every different field that treat TOS patients. And so hopefully I have a good idea of what they need to know. And these studies are so different. Everyone is so unique that combination of experience, both in my organization and the technological scanning and my looking at them, makes a huge difference. We've had other people go to MRI centers and have arms down and arms up, but without a radiologist who's got that experience, I think there's a gap. So we're proud of what we do. We believe we help people. We have new centers we're working on. I'm sorry if we're not in your area, but it might be worth the trip to where we're located. So please reach out to us on tosmri.com. We'll look out for you, Marcus, and we'll respond this time. Apologize if you've had trouble getting through. Thanks for the question and thanks for viewing here. And before our next question, I'm going to remind people to thank Jake and thank TOS MRI and TOS Education by hitting the like button and pressing that bell so you get notified when we have a new show coming up. We are on Instagram and TikTok now. We're learning to use the TikTok platform, and YouTube. We have channels on both TOS Education and TOS MRI. And please subscribe and watch and help us grow with that algorithm so that more people learn about TOS. All right. No joke movie. Can you guys talk about the connection, if any, between TOS and cervical dystonia? Again, I'm sorry, this is more for me, Jake. Cervical dystonia is something that's more dealt with by neurologists. I'd have to probably consult with a neurologist or do a little reading. If it responds, I'm sorry, if it refers to spasm of neck muscles, um, then we deal with that a lot in TOS, in neurogenic TOS in particular. The scalene muscles are thought to be part of the process that starts this abnormal posture. And when they contract too much, they're painful locally, but they also can send referred pain. They can also press on the nerves going by. And if the scalene muscles are tight, or if any muscle is tight, just ask our athlete here, you tend to try to shorten that muscle. So people tend to bring their neck forward and their chin down because that shortens the scalene muscle and relieves some of the spasm. But unfortunately, these muscles are smart and they'll just go into more spasm. So it's a vicious cycle. Anyway, that's the kind of thing I won't speak about too much because I don't know enough about cervical dystonia. It's a clinical diagnosis that someone makes in their office. If you want to reach out to me separately, I'll do some reading on it. We'll help you figure it out. Thank you for the question. There you go, Jake. This one's for you.
Yeah, Tate. Okay, so when I had a flare up, typically the symptoms that I had were my arm would become very tight. Um, it would swell a little bit, and to me, usually my flare ups happened while I swam. So I was a backstroker. So when I would come over with my stroke, um, my arm would feel dead. And so that was, I kind of knew that it feels like I'm slinging a bag of rocks back and forth. And so my arm would become very swollen. Um, it would become slightly discolored, a lot of pain. And then I would usually get out then and I would start treating it right away. But that's typically the symptoms I had. I didn't really have anything neurogenic. There's occasionally my fingertips become a little tingly, um, but that was the extent of those type of symptoms. Mostly, it was just discoloration, tightness, um, and it'd kind of feel dead. I wouldn't feel like I could pull the water the way I normally would. Um, but yeah, those are. I hope that kind of helps. That's typically the symptoms that I had.
Do you still swim recreationally?
I have not been in the water since my last race at NCAAs.
Wow.
I've picked up weightlifting. I go to the gym 5 to 6 times a week, and, I've just been lifting. I haven't really had any issues, um, and I feel good about myself. It's helping me keep in shape, and I don't have to deal with the uncertainty of, "Hey, I get a 2,000 yards into this practice of a 6,000-yard practice, and I have an issue. I can't do the rest of the practice." I haven't had any issues with that. Even when I'm doing, arm and shoulders day, I don't have any issues. And I know that I don't have to push myself as hard with those days if I don't want to. Um, so I can still do the muscular movements and, not have as much pain, take care of myself.
You're talking with other patients who reach out to you, Jake. Are you surprised by the number of swimmers who have TOS?
Um, to a certain degree, yes, because I had never heard of any swimmer that had it.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, before I got to Alabama, I think that there were 5 or 6 swimmers that had to medically retire because of having TOS. So I'm the first one that's come through Alabama's program that's had TOS and been able to
Ah,
continue to keep swimming.
well, make sure you tell your coaches and your colleagues to reach out to us to learn more about TOS. We
I
want to help people.
definitely will.
We've actually gotten involved more in pitchers,
Mhm,
professional pitchers, which is actively being researched now because they're such valuable commodities at these high levels because
mhm.
they're so rare. But it's similar stress as to what swimmers go through. getting your arm in this real extreme position and applying maximum force.
Definitely. I mean, that's most of the people who I heard about that had this. Like,
Mhm.
for example, Steven Strasburg, pitcher
Mhm.
for the Nationals, one of the most generational talents that's come across the mound. He's had to retire because of TOS. Um, Markel Fultz is the first round. He's the number one pick, I think, in the 2019 NBA draft.
Right.
TOS, he was never the same. Matt Harvey, another pitcher, I believe he pitched for the Mets. He had TOS. And I think I could be wrong, so don't quote me on this, but I think the new star closer for the Oakland A's, Mason Miller, had TOS also at one point.
Hmm.
He's now throwing 103 and he's the most dominant closer in baseball. I could be wrong. It could be somebody else, but I'm pretty sure I read somewhere that he had it also. So it's very interesting. But mostly I've seen pitchers or basketball players, not really swimmers, but
Mhm.
um
It's
it's been
probably
rewarding.
there. It's just there, and it's just not known by the trainers as well, I believe.
Yeah, but it's
I
been
think.
rewarding to be able to work with swimmers and have them reach out to me because that's something I dedicated 18 years of my life to, and I want to
Yeah.
continue to help people who have TOS, but also I want to help swimmers because I know how much the sport meant to me and I know how much it means
Yeah.
to them.
And one of my particular curiosities is to find this earlier. We don't want to see baseball pitchers having terrible 6 months to a year and then going to surgery. It should be found earlier than that.
Mhm,
And with swimmers as well, I wonder, because we don't work with a lot of swimming trainers, how many of them have early signs.
mhm,
So hopefully this will improve every year that goes by, that we get to find people a little earlier, and then it's easier to treat and people know what's going on. And then it feeds on itself. Because if you're, for instance, your coach, your trainer moved to, you said he's in Utah, right?
mhm.
Right.
Yeah,
And
he's
so
at BYU.
the head trainer there now. So if a person, an accomplished person like that knows about TOS, he might be seeing it sooner than other people, and he'll spread the word. That helps
Yeah,
everybody.
and he actually he told me he teaches a master's program, I believe, and or he teaches a master's class, and every year my story is one of the things that he teaches in the spring. Um, so he continues to educate people, and he uses my story as an example for that.
Great. Herb, do we have further questions we can help with? Jake, you want to take this? This is Tate again.
Um, what treatments? So okay, yes. Um, for me, I think the things that help the most is I'd go through a routine where I would ace wrap my arm and I'd elevate it. Um, Typically 20 to 30 minutes. Sometimes your arm will fall asleep and you just got to let it come down, get the feeling back into it, raise it back up, helps drain the blood out of your arm. Um, and then I used a device called the Mark Pro, and that helped out a lot in sending electroshocks through my body, stimulating the muscle get the um, to help get the waste out of my arm and help get it back to normal. Those are typically the things I use the most.
And Tate, as a reminder, Jake had venous TOS. He showed up with a blood clot. So patients with neurogenic TOS are approached a little bit differently. Do you have another question, Tate? I think we do. Thanks. Jake, for you?
Yes, definitely. I didn't really have an option for the surgery, but it definitely did make a night and day difference for me. And so I'm glad I had no option because I probably would have been scared to take the option of surgery because that's something it sounds very scary. But it changed everything for me.
There are still some controversies about treating venous TOS. Some docs will obviously break up the clot a couple different ways, and some may put a stent in. I found I think that the first thing you need to do is to get a study like ours to see what's causing it. Some patients can develop a web or a scar within the vein itself, and maybe they don't have compression between the rib and the collarbone, But other patients, that's the primary issue, and eventually it damages the vein, and then you get a blood clot. And in those cases, just putting a stent, a metal cage in place, is going to fail. And there's a decent number of failures of these stents because the first rib and adjacent muscles are not removed properly. So again, I advocate for a particular reason, but I think imaging in venous TOS is just as important as imaging in neurogenic TOS.
Definitely.
Thanks, No Joke Movie. We appreciate you contributing and asking good questions. And Tate, you're a musician. Oh, that's not good. You lost your musical career. Maybe you could share with us what instrument you played. We do know that some musicians, there's a paper out, I'll have to look it up again, but violinists particularly struggle with upper extremity syndromes that are probably TOS. Bubba says, this is for you, Jake.
I do follow a plan that I found online, actually. And I make modifications to it. A lot of it is dumbbell based because I'm stronger in one arm than the other arm, and that's because of having TOS. So I do a lot of training where I go with my weak arm first, and just to even out the muscular balance. So if I say I'm going 10 reps on my left arm, then I'll go 10 reps on my right arm, even though I can do more with that arm because it's stronger. Other than that, I mean, I don't do anything that I've had an issue with. So whether if I do an exercise, and usually it would be on arm day. If I do an exercise that causes me to feel any tightness at all that's similar to what I experienced in the pool, I don't touch it. I find a different alternative, whether it's a lifting one or it's something doing using cables or even bands. So I definitely am a little flexible with what I do. I don't go in very set on what I'm gonna do. I have an idea of the things I want to do, and I kind of just make adjustments as I'm going. If I have an issue, I'll take that out of the workout completely, and I won't ever go back to it. Um, that's kind of the advice that I have. I do the basic curls. I do triceps, biceps, shoulders. It just all depends on the movement, and I just try to be very in tune with what I'm doing with my body. And if there's something that doesn't work, I find an alternative.
Was your left side your surgical side?
Actually, no, my right side was my surgical side.
But you're weaker on the left. It's interesting.
I'm a right side dominant. I mean, I write when I do everything with my right hand. But when I was right after I had surgery, my left arm was the dominant arm. And so since it's been 6 years since I had surgery, now it's even back out, and my right arm is now stronger again. But earlier on, it was my left arm was the dominant arm. Like, I taught myself how to write with my left arm. I taught myself how to throw a football with my left arm. I taught myself how to throw a baseball with my left arm because I couldn't do that with my right arm. And so I definitely do want to even out that muscular balance again. But that's pretty much it. I mean, when I was lifting while I was swimming, I was a lot more cautious about what I did. So I didn't touch doing pull-ups, overhead movements. I've just now started to get back into those. I'm very cautious about them because I don't want to exacerbate any issues or cause a flare-up. But I don't want to limit myself now because I was very limited because I was so focused on swimming, and I was going to do nothing to compromise that. Now I don't have that in the back of my mind, so I can be a little bit more risky with what I want to do in the weight room. But I definitely am still very cautious about the things I do, especially when it relates to my right arm.
Bubba, thank you for the question. And by the way, your puppy is very cute. All right. So I want to remind people that August 6th and August 20th, we will be having events, live streams, guests to be determined. We're working with docs who are very busy, so we have to work within their schedules. Jake, anything you want to add to people looking forward to your future? What's the most important things you're going to do over the next year or two that you're looking forward to?
Um, I starting dental school, but hopefully I can come back on in a couple months, give an update on what I'm doing. If I learn more things, I'd love to do some speaking engagements around the country, talking to people about TOS and kind of my story, sharing that because I think the thing that was important to me is having a beacon of hope, and I hope that I'm able to be a beacon of hope for other people out there. So I want to continue to share my story. It's definitely in my spare time. I will be putting all my focus into dental school, but it's something I'm not going to forget about, and something I'm going to continue to want to help people with.
And tell people about your website again.
Yes. So please go watch my video on there. It's helpforthoracicOutlet.org. HelpforthoracicOutlet.org. A huge thank to Forward Motions Film for partnering with me to produce that documentary. And yeah, if you have questions, feel free to reach out to me through my website. You can find me on social media, Jake Marcum, pretty generic. But yeah, I'm happy to help. And if you guys ever have any questions, I'm an open book. I'm going to tell you how it is. I'll tell you the most important thing is to stand up for yourself, be an advocate, and don't hide it to yourself. Don't be afraid to say something because people out there want to help you. Um, and yeah, if I can do anything, I hope that I give you guys hope that you can be successful. This is not the end of the road. Um, it's just a bump in the journey.
Thank you, Jake. Again, your positivity is really infectious, and we appreciate your effort and your time to share and connect with so many people. And we're always glad to have you back here as you go on and accomplish great things.
Thank you.
Again, this is Dr. Scott Worden, the TOS guy. Hope everybody's starting off with a really great summer. Hit the like button and subscribe to us and hit that bell. Remember that so you can keep up to date on what our next new chapter will be. Thanks, everybody, and we'll see you soon.